In this video, we're speaking to women in their 30s, 40s, and in their 60s about what it's like moving to the country of Panama alone with respect to their safety.
You do it to me once, you're not going to do it to me again.
The tension that I felt when I was in the States was lifted when I moved here.
Now, this is not on the list, but have you gone back to Santa Ana?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I think the first couple of times,
How does your sense of safety in Panama compare to your home country?
There was going to be a lot of creepy crawlers and especially snakes. And I just knew that I would wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and one would be in the toilet. I don't know why. that was just what I was afraid of. I didn't know how to handle that. So I'm glad to say I didn't have that experience at all.
So to be honest, I didn't really have any safety concerns. I had visited Panama twice before, once in 2004 and then another time in 2019. And I never once felt unsafe. So safety in Panama wasn't an issue for me. I don't even recall if I researched it.
Panama was considered very safe when I was doing my research. And of course, I visited 3 times before I decided to move. And every time I came here, I felt very safe. And I walk all over the place. I'm not an Uber girl. I'm like a metro. I walk, just Google Map, and I go. So I think that was one of the factors when you're doing research, when you decide where you go. Because as a single female, you really have to be careful where you go, especially in a city, any city.
I think my first initial concern about safety was probably that I hadn't studied enough about the country when I moved here. It was kind of a quick move, and so I probably should have been doing a bit more research about the country before I got here. I wasn't really sure on their policies, on how they handled crime, how they handled any kind of scenario with crime at all. I knew the neighborhood I was moving to was relatively safe, but you hear stories from other people about how the neighborhoods around you aren't necessarily safe. I don't always follow those, but maybe more so my mom not speaking Spanish and maybe her being more a victim of crime than necessarily that I was fearful.
Yes, I certainly did. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I joined a lot of Facebook expat groups. I joined Zoom calls. That was really key for me, is to get that research done so that when I did make that decision to travel to Panama with my daughter, it just made everything so much easier, and I was able to connect with people and then tour Panama.
Yeah, I don't recall researching safety in Panama. I just went off of my gut and how I felt here. And I always felt like home, and I always felt safe.
I looked at stats in terms of crime related to Panama and compare it to where I came from. And definitely for the size of the country, the incidence, violent crime was definitely much lower. Of course, there is petty crime. People being assaulted, it was like pickpocketing. Or people in communities such as in Chiriquí or in Boquete, they would talk about abandoned homes. Let's say they go to the States and then when they come back, somebody has broken into their homes. To me, I don't consider that crime per se. I'm looking at personal crime, being assaulted, somebody, attacking you or, knifing, things like that. And definitely Panama came to the top that we don't have that kind of stuff here.
I felt completely safe. I had friends help me. I already had every trip that I came down, I would bring something else. I think it wasn't about being safe. It was just something new. So when I first moved here, it was like, all right, I'd walk around the block. And then I was like, okay, kind of run back home. And then the next day, I might have gone a bit further out. And each day I went further and further out, just until I got acclimated and comfortable. But that's just normal for me.
it was very easy for me because I had made that initial connection. I found a tour guide. His name was Alex, and me and my daughter actually met him when we came here to, scout Panama. And he was the one who picked me up from the airport. He speaks Spanish and English, which was a plus. And he was able to help me move all of my 6 bags that I brought with me to live in a fully furnished apartment.
I actually felt very safe. I did have a plan when I moved, and my dad was here as well. And I had also met a few people before I actually made the move. So in terms of safety in that regard, I felt relatively safe. The building we live in, I do like the access that it has, but it is a safety concern. Generally, the staff knows who lives here. They see somebody they don't speak up. So I felt quite safe.
It was very easy because when I moved, I decided to do like a 6-month lease, and I had developed some relationships prior to coming, which we recommend everybody does that. And my attorney was really a good resource. She hooked me up with a realtor. Having that person there to kind of give you some input as to the safe places, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And I like to listen to people when they tell me if I don't know a place. So I think between her and the real estate lady, she took me around, she helped me move my stuff. So that was a very good, safety tip, I guess you could say. I didn't have to worry about dealing with total strangers and worry about getting scammed.
No problems whatsoever. I love living here. Safety for me is not even an issue. It helps that we live in a secured, high-rise apartment. So being here on Balboa Avenue, I feel really safe. The police, they ride up with their mopeds or their motorcycles all the time, and we have no issues with them at all.
Very safe. Even though I got robbed in Santa Ana, which is close to Casco Viejo last year, and I'm going to do a video about that, was my own fault. Because even though you feel safe, you still have to take precautions, and because you're in a city after all. And every time you go to a place where you have lots of tourists, you're going to have to buy. And I knew this stuff, but sometimes you just kind of let your guard down, and that's how it happened. And even immediately after it happened, I blamed myself, and I was like, I still feel very safe because I did not take the necessary precautions when that happened to me. So, and then I was like, you do it to me once, you're not going to do it to me again. Now I might add, in my building, 1 block away from my building, we have what we call the hourly ladies. And my metro station, which I use a lot, I know personally I don't want to be in that area past a certain time at night. So I keep that in mind. So if I'm going somewhere, even though I love to take the metro, I was like, too late, I'm going to Uber back.
I feel completely safe. I actually feel safer here than I do in the US. I'm not on guard as much. I think there's a part of me that's always on guard, but it's completely different than how I was in the US. I'm not looking over my shoulder. I might be panning like the surroundings, but I'm not like, I'm no longer doing that. And it's so refreshing.
So my perception of safety in general has changed, not my perception of safety in Panama. I still feel exactly the same as I did when I moved. I still feel safe, I still feel comfortable. But watching things around the world, my perception of safety other places is starting to shift. And I think also that one of the things I noticed that I think I'm a little kind of aloof sometimes here because I do feel so safe. And sometimes I remember I'm not always going to be here all the time. I have to be aware of that. I have to be more safe regardless of where I'm going, not just because I feel safe at all.
But yes, my perception has definitely changed. I'm no longer afraid of the creepy crawlers. They really don't exist here in the city. There was an incident in Costa del Este where I was staying when I first moved here that I felt like a boa constrictor was found in the area that me and my daughter normally walked. And so, needless to say, I no longer live in Costa del Este. My safety, I feel like it's a non-issue. The tension that I felt when I was in the States was lifted when I moved here. I don't know why, it was just almost instantaneous. I felt free. I felt like I could breathe. I felt safe.
I think the importance of having an emergency network became apparent for various reasons. When I was in the US, if I didn't show up for work, for example, they had my emergency contact. They knew where I lived. But here, I didn't have that system in place. So I think that changed my perception of emergency preparedness more than safety, even though they kind of go hand in hand. If that makes sense.
Yes, like I said, in my metro area, the hourly ladies late at night, they're in the corner. And even early in the morning, they're still working their shifts. And then when I'm going to the metro, I go 2 streets over because I know where they kind of congregate, so I can avoid that, so you become aware. And yes, there are some neighborhoods I would not be going to like at night, or if I don't have a need to be in those areas, I mean, this is common sense. As a single woman, you have to be really aware of where you go, who you go with, and your surroundings.
Now, this is not on the list, but have you gone back to Santa Ana?
Oh, yes. I think the first couple of times I had a little PTSD. I was like, this is where it happened. But I know exactly how it happened in my video. I'll give the details, but yeah.
In the back of our building, it's amazing the difference between Balboa Avenue and then when you go just a block behind us, there are some professional women that worked back there. And so I typically don't go back that way unless I'm walking to Ray's, or that's a supermarket here, or if I'm going to McDonald's. I'm gonna go back there and do my business and leave. But I typically stay on Balboa Avenue, and I have had no issues with my safety.
I don't know if there are. I visit, so I live in front of an area which is considered to be relatively unsafe to most expats, I would say, Caledonia. I visit Caledonia often. I walk there, I go to the store there, I go to the pharmacy there, I visit there tons of times. I don't necessarily walk around in the dark, but I don't know if I would do that in the States either. And so I think that's just a general rule of thumb. As a woman, I don't tend to walk around in the dark. But I don't know if there is any place that I don't visit specifically because of that. No.
So this is kind of funny. There were definitely states in the United States I didn't want to visit just because of historical practices and stories. I just wouldn't step foot there. A lot of people here said there are certain places you shouldn't go to, like Cologne or Rio Bajo or El Chorrillo, and I've been to all of them several times. I tend to go with my gut, and I like to see things for myself.
So I started a small home bakery. I made frozen cookie dough that gets sold individually in 12 packs. I have 11 flavors, and people tend to really like that because it's something they can take to their house and bake. But I've started to branch into rum cakes and large coconut cakes, brownies, other kinds of desserts. And last week was my first official large event that's catered to dessert table for everybody.
But I just felt like our needs as single, older women, people worry about healthcare. They worry about what happens to me if I get sick. Is there somebody I can call if something happens to me? So I saw the need for that in single women as a group, we're trying to make really deeper connections. Like I said, the sisterhood. My videos are about changing the mindset, doing a self-assessment. Can you make it by yourself in a different country? And when you get here, we're here. You're not by yourself. This is what single women retiring abroad is. It's like creating a microcosm within the community where people can age in place and feel supported.
If you watched my video on healthcare in Panama, you should remember that I referenced Nicole's YouTube channel, The Ladies' Place. It's a safe place to discuss all things about aging gracefully.
I mean, I'm not looking at.
But again, it was.
Speak louder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It
Is this on?
is on.
Oh.
So, what was the question?
I don't know how to say prostitutes. No.
Yeah, so I don't know how much that. We're done. It was.
I didn't even have to study.
If you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe so that you don't miss the rest of this series. Like the video, consider becoming a channel member for behind the scenes content of my life as an expat, or share this video with someone you think that will gain value from it. The world is yours. You just have to find your place in it.